Right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Being 6:30, welcome to this meeting of the Cabinet on the 25th of September, a very auspicious day.
Happy birthday, dear leader.
That was a bit slow, but you got there in the end. It's not too bad. Right. It's used to be a quarter day. Right, let me just begin with the fire evacuation procedures, which, as you know, there are no fire alarms scheduled for this evening. Therefore, if it does go off, we must evacuate the building immediately, and the exits are located at the rear and side of this room. We go downstairs, and we'll all meet again in War Memorial Park. Second point is to advise you all that, God willing, this meeting is being webcast, and therefore the proceedings are available to everybody who's watching on the internet. Apologies for absence. Have apologies from Councillor Donnell, who may be able to join us, but I think he's going to be unlikely that he will be here in time. So apologies for absence for him. Declarations of
I have a declaration.
Well, I'm just going to say declarations of interest.
Thank you, Leader. I should declare through employment a declaration of interest in relation to paper C.
Thank you very much. Anybody else, if you do suddenly realise that you have got one when we get to particular papers, just raise the point at that. If you wish to declare that you are the ward member for Kingsclere when we're discussing the Kingsclere, and so is Councillor Sherlock, even though that's a matter of very public record. Since these days we seem to be declaring absolutely everything and anything. And Councillor Finney, while you're at it, would you like to declare something?
Paper F. My company is a tenant on Basingview, so I shall abstain from voting.
Thank you. Councillor Mr. Still, have you got nothing you want to declare? Okay. In which case, let us move on. Let us move on to member participation. If I may, Councillor Shaw, I'll take that when we get to the paper. And we might just move the order around a bit to try and get to it earlier. Unless you wish to sit through the whole of the meeting, it won't take too long. Right, let us then confirm the minutes, please, of the 26th of June 2012. Are there any issues that people would wish to raise on the minutes as recorded, or will you authorise me to sign them in due course? And the agreed? Good. Okay. Now, we do have an urgent item. I think it's the first one that I've actually, meeting I've chaired where there's been an urgent item, which is the interesting subject of Kingsclere and Kingsclere Parish Council, which had the delightful sight of Councillor Harvey being a member of the Parish Council, which was probably the first and last time, I should think. Councillor Jai Wardener, since you were, I believe, the Deputy Chair acting of that, would you like to just bring us up to date with where we've got to?
Yes, thank you, Leader. The Borough appointed through the Local Government Act a number of members, a mix of borough councillors and officers, to take the place of the Parish Council following a resignation of every member of the Parish Council. The interim Parish Council, therefore, commissioned a report which reported prior to the recent elections for a new Parish Council at Kingsclere. A new Parish Council was signed into office yesterday evening, and they have now begun the work of taking the parish forward. So all of the borough appointed members are no longer members of Kingsclere Parish Council.
Good, then, unless the ward members wish to say anything, I think we'd just thank the borough councillors for that additional burden on their time, and the officers for the work that they put into doing all the necessary things, and wish the new parish council in Kingsclere a less turbulent time than clearly there was had by the old one. So, and all the best for the future. Referrals from full council, we have none. References from other reports from other committees, we have none. Nor do we have any petitions. We do have to, under item 11, we do have to talk about the Basingview Executive Committee and to appoint a member of Cabinet following the resignation of Andrew Finney for reasons which he's really just declared for us. So, as just rest. Councillor Jai Warden, did you wish to say something on this issue?
Thank you. Well, in the interest of getting to Councillor Shaw's comments, I'd nominate Councillor Eachus for the vacancy to BVEC.
Since Councillor Shaw has informed me of what he wishes to speak about, I suggest that we move to item 13, which is the regeneration and delivery strategy for Basingstoke Leisure Park. Now I'm going to ask Councillor Still to introduce the paper, but would you like to come forward, John, and sit somewhere? He seems an awfully long way away now, but we'll see what we can do about that next time round, I think. Councillor Still, would you like to introduce the paper and then ask Councillor Shaw for his?
Thank you, Leader. The purpose of the paper is to seek endorsement from Cabinet on the proposed way forward to deliver new investment into the leisure park. The report sets out the background of the leisure park, identifies its strengths and weaknesses, and sets out a proposed strategy for the future. This is informed upon consultation with the market, tenants, and cross-party leisure park members advisory panel, which I know Councillor Shaw is part of, which has been involved since it was set up at the beginning of the year. Endorsement has been obtained by the Community and Wellbeing Overview Committee following a coach tour of the park and subsequent committee meeting earlier this month. So if I just give a very brief background, given the age of the majority of the buildings, the leisure park has a dated image and the park has suffered from both enhanced competition from other leisure facilities being developed in other towns and the presence of the more modern cinema in the town centre. The key output of the regeneration strategy is to attract new inward investment into the park through the provision of a new leisure users. It is considered that this will protect and enhance the park's standing as a premier leisure facility in Basingstoke, whilst attracting new visitors to the town. This key output should be accompanied by the need to encourage reinvestment within the existing facilities. The provision of new uses should provide an opportunity to drive up overall visitors numbers to the park and enhance expenditure on the park generally, in turn incentivising tenants to invest in their current facilities. I'm very excited about this project, Leader and Cabinet, and I hope you would agree with me that we go forward with this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Still. Councillor Shaw, as you know, it's nominally 2 minutes. Since you're the only speaker this evening, I'm not even going to bother to put the timer on, but succinctness is always a virtue.
Thank you very much, Leader. I'll try and be brief. I speak as someone who has attended the member advisory panel meetings, and I'm supportive of the overall thrust of the paper, which I think is a very welcome redevelopment. The one specific thing I want to talk about is the area called Saunders Field, which is the area south of Churchill Way West, sort of opposite what one would think of normally as the leisure park site. And my interest in that field is twofold, really. One is that within my ward, Brookvale and Kings Furlong, which is the neighbouring ward to the east of Saunders Field, there's a deficit in green space, so I'm obviously keen to retain green spaces, including those adjacent to the area in which my constituents live. And a further aspect of it, from my point of view, is of course that the River Loddon flows through Saunders Field, and then there is a channel that continues through into through Brookvale into Victory Park and then on to Glebe Gardens. And although that channel is normally dry, it's an area that I'm keen to maintain and preserve. And I think there is a slight risk that the way that this matter is being taken forward, does open a certain element of risk in relation to the field. And I think there's a practical way of reducing that risk and achieving what is identified as an aim in section 8.2.20 of the officer report. And that particular section says any proposals for Saundersfield would be expected to be treated sensitively and have full regard to the land's floodplain status, the impact on the River Loddon, and the impact stroke contribution to green infrastructure. And what I'd like to suggest to you is that you add 5 additional words into the evaluation criteria in Appendix 8, which you're recommended to approve this evening. And if I can sort of refer you to that Appendix 8, there's the yeah, thank you. Unfortunately, the printout I have doesn't have the page numbers on it, but yes, thank you. That's page 80, and there's the the fourth bullet point there, which talks about sustainability being one of the evaluation criteria, which I welcome, and refers to provision of a solution with high ecologically sustainable credentials. And what I'd ask you to consider is adding the words "and is sensitive to the natural environment" to that particular part of the evaluation criteria, because I believe that would not detract from what is being sought to be achieved overall, but would have the added benefit, I hope, of trying to achieve what is sought in 8.2.20 of the report. So I recommend that to you, and also I think it would be helpful, for the point that's made in 8.2.20 to be communicated to the potential partners in any sort of brief that is, or information that's sent to them, inviting interest. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Still, do you wish to respond in any way there?
Thank you, Councillor Shaw. I've taken on board your comments, and I do agree with most of what you're saying. With the Saundersfield, we've always said, I'm not sure if you were on the coach tour with us. I don't think you were. I don't think you could make it. The group of councillors that were there, we all agreed at the time that this should, as far as possible, be retained as a green open space. And you mentioned rightly the River Loddon going through and so on and so forth. So from my point of view, I actually will take on board what you said and look into that for you. I can't see there being a problem.
Did you have a supplementary?
Well, really just to thank the portfolio holder for that. It's a very positive response. Is it feasible, do you think, to add in those particular words into that appendix that I suggested?
I think I would. I mean, certainly we will try and do that, but I would be. I never like including things just on the spot without having looked at it, because sometimes wording can you put things in which you don't realise the implication of. But I think we'd all agree that the principle is very well accepted, and if that wording can be added and clarifies the situation and doesn't artificially constrain us in any way that is not intended, then very happy to accept it and to go along with it. And thank you for your support for the project. I think we all agree that this is one of the number of key things that we need to get done for the borough. And whilst it's not an immediate problem, because it's still a good place to go and have fun, if we don't start now, we will not be in the position of having a place like that in the future. So we really do need to get on with it. In which context, it's good to know that I haven't had the final confirmation, but all the I's were dotted and the T's crossed as far as air kicks was concerned this week, and that the ironwork, or whatever they call it, the steel structure, is arriving in about 3 weeks' time. It's already on a boat from New York, so it's a good sign. Councillor Still.
Councillor Shaw, could you send me those words? we made note of them, so that's okay. Great, thank you.
Lovely. So, members, are we? Thank you very much, John. Thank you. Are we agreed that we have to? Do we have to agree this one? It is a decision notice. Are we agreed? Yep.
Agreed.
Good. Fine. Then let us return to the order of play here.
Leave the room.
Those of you who should no longer be here, please go. And we turn now to the question of, under non-exec issues, the local authority mortgage scheme. Cabinet member for property and finance. Or are you
I
going
think we agreed I would do
Have
it.
you- You're going to deal with it. I thought you were dealing with it, so
Yes.
good. Hasn't caught up there.
This is one of these issues that crosses more than one portfolio holder. It's not a decision for us, it's a recommendation for a decision to be made by full council. This is a small but very important step in doing what we can to help first-time buyers get on the housing ladder. It certainly will serve housing objectives as set out in the report. It does involve investing money in a way that doesn't fit with our normal investment criteria, which is why it needs a decision by full council. In essence, what we're proposing is that the council invests money with Lloyds, we get a return on it, but because of that investment, Lloyds is able to offer mortgages to first-time buyers within our borough at a slightly more favourable terms than they would otherwise get, in particular with a much smaller deposit. So it enables more people to get on the housing ladder. But we do need a decision of full council, so I'm happy to recommend this to Cabinet.
Members, any comments anyone wishes to make? I think it's a very welcome step forward, and I think the important thing is that it's a first step, and if it proves to be successful, then it is something which we would want to continue and to expand. It's a very good way of utilising the resources that we have within the borough in a positive way for the benefit of a group of our residents who find it more difficult than maybe in other economic conditions to move their lives forward. And the more that we can be doing, it's only one group, but we were doing other initiatives for other groups as we proceed. So if we're all agreed, then we shall. Could you ask somebody, thank you from the audience, to ask Councillor General Wardener to return, and we'll move on to the revenue outturn for 2011-12.
Thank you, Leader. This is a routine matter relating to the accounting treatment for the 2011 and 12 accounts. There's two aspects to it. Firstly, we previously reported a draft surplus of 3,677,000. Following the final auditing, that surplus is £3,505,000. Second aspect concerns the accounting treatment for the legal costs associated with the money-down judicial review. Based upon the advice we've had from the auditors, we're going to provide for that in the 2011/12 accounts rather than in 2012/13. So there'll be a provision made in the 2011/12 accounts rather than transferring funds from the general fund balance.
Any questions, members? No? Are we happy to approve the recommendation? Full council agreed. Good, thank you very much. In which case we'll move on to the surrender of a leasehold interest, which you're taking no part in, Andrew. Now, could I just remind members that there are pink papers associated with this item. Hopefully we can deal with it without having to refer to the pink papers, because otherwise we'll have to ask everybody to get up and go out of the room. But if we can avoid doing that, the Cabinet Member for Strategy and Commissioning, that would be very much appreciated.
I've listened to that very carefully, Leader. So in line with that, a very short statement for Cabinet. As Cabinet is aware, Basingview is being improved with significant sums of money being invested now and next year. the building in question is a poor quality building, is considered to be unlettable. Demolition will therefore improve the prospect of the site and is in line with the Basingview master plan. Not to approve this will mean that the property itself will continue to deteriorate and will be a drag on the Basingview regeneration plans that we want to proactively push forward. To that end, I move the recommendation as tabled.
Thank you very much. We have actually two elements to this, which is the surrender of the leasehold interest as item 12.3, which is the recommendation to full council, and also a decision on this as a key decision from the forward plan. Are we happy to take both together and to agree both? Very good. Thank you very much. In which case, I don't know if Andrew's still hanging about out there, but we are only moving on, so even if he is, it doesn't matter. We're only moving on to matters dealt with by portfolio holders under delegated powers, which are for noting. Yeah?
Noted.
Noted. In which case, there being no other business, I would declare the meeting closed.